Hey guys!
Welcome back to our channel. My name is Alexis.
And I'm Louis.
And if you are new here, we make videos all about living and traveling in Switzerland. So if that sounds interesting to you, click the subscribe button to stick around. So in this video, we're going to do something that we think is going to be helpful for a lot of you. One, because if you follow us on the Traveling Swiss, we just had a poll, and this is our most popularly requested video. The question I get asked probably one of the most in the comments, in our DMs is X, Y, and Z month that I'm traveling to Switzerland a good time to visit? So there's a lot that goes into this with the weather, with attractions that are open, with the skiing, all different things like that. So we're gonna go month by month and give you our honest opinion because it's true, some months are just better than others. Yeah. So we're gonna go through the pros and cons of each month, so make sure to stick around. We're gonna start right at the top of the year and go all the way through. Yeah. So if you know when you're visiting, you could skip forward in the video if you like, but we're gonna start with January.
Yes, so January is a winter month. It's cold all over Switzerland. You will have mountain full of snow, so you'll have snow in the ski resorts. You might even have sometimes snow in the cities. It's not something that we have the whole winter long. You have mostly no snow in like Zurich, Geneva, but it will be cold, so really pack some warm clothes. In terms of temperature, it's not dropping down below like -2, 3, 4 in cities. Not too bad, but in the ski resorts you'll have actually some pretty cool temperatures, down to -10 sometimes. In terms of that month, I like it a lot because it's less touristy. You have less people in January, but very good fresh snow, and so for me this is one of the very good winter months because you have less people. You don't have the Swiss holidays that are in February, so you have less people in the Swiss ski resorts. Overall, this is a quite nice month for the snow, the amount of people, and also prices might be slightly lower than in February. So a good month to recommend in the winter. So now for February. February is also, in terms of snow, I think probably the peak kind of snow. It's really good. You'll have the most snow and the most slopes open if you go for skiing and going for luging also and all that stuff. You might have, and this is sort of mid-February to end February, a lot of school holidays during these periods, so this is going to be more crowded. And in terms of temperature, this is like January, pretty cold overall in the cities, in the mountains, so pack a bit more heavier. And just also something that is nice you can do it every month, but in January, February, you have that possibility to enjoy the raclette, the fondue, all that winter stuff that is kind of served to you a little bit more, so that's also always something nice to do in Switzerland. In terms of the weather for January and February, I would say you are likely to have some clouds. You'll have, of course, some days with blue sky, but this is maybe less 100% chance to have a blue sky than like in June, July.
Okay, so if you are coming in March, it is now the shoulder of the ski season. So the first half of March, you can definitely still ski. It's a little risky because it's less certain than if you're coming in January or February, just depending on the quality of the snow. You can likely still ski, but it might be a little bit warmer. The snow might not be the great quality that it is in January and February.
Still possible.
Still possible. That being said, you will have way less crowds and the hotels will likely be cheaper, but you may already start dealing with some closures, in my opinion. So some of the resorts may close the middle of the month, so just check where you're depending on going. But it is a good option. I know in the US a lot of people have March, like a middle week in March, as a spring break from universities and things like that. It is still quite cold in March. I know I can fall into the trap thinking that spring starts in March, it's already going to be warm. You're still going to have the trees with no leaves, you won't have flowers, the cities will still feel quite winter, it'll still be quite cold, so this is not really the time to hike. So if you want to come skiing in March, just to put a pin on it, if you pick some of the ski resorts that are higher in altitude, you'll be more guaranteed to be able to ski. So it's just something to keep in mind. Moving right into April, I would say this is kind of officially your no more skiing month.
Yeah.
April is a tough month to visit because depending on the year, the weather can still be really rainy, it can still be really cool, and if you're expecting that warm spring kind of renaissance season, it's a gamble of whether or not you're going to have it. So
yeah, it depends. Like this year was very warm,
exactly.
But it's always difficult with weather. But
Yeah.
this is less guaranteed also.
I would say April is really starting an off season in Switzerland where some of those luxurious hotels in the Alps and things like that will be closed beginning in April and sometimes through May. So check that, because that's unfortunate if it's the time you're visiting and you want to do all these things and you book your flights before you look, you're going to start to have some closures. I would say April is often very rainy. Again, the weather is hard to predict, and I'm speaking for a country as a whole. But if you'd like to hike, I would prepare for it to rain. Definitely pack as if it may rain. Maybe you'll be lucky, but April is very much, you know, the very beginning of the spring, so just prepare for that accordingly.
Yeah, and I think just for the gondolas and mountain trains, this is also the month with November where they have maintenance between the seasons. So that's also something really to check. We'll not say for all of them, but to check if the gondolas that you want to take are actually open in April, because that might be the time when they close. So now moving towards warmer weather, we are arriving in May. This is definitely getting warmer and nicer in the cities. We'll need just a light jacket, sometimes only like some long sleeves. You have still with the weather in May, which we call the Saint Glace, which is suddenly you have like a few days of very cool weather. So this still can happen in May. It's not always the case, but you might have suddenly some very cool weather in May, so it's still possible. But in terms of hiking, this is really when it starts. You have now the flowers in the mountains and everywhere that is blossoming. You have leaves on trees, so this really looks pretty in Switzerland. So this is, I think, in terms of tourism, also a bit less touristy. You'll have less people.
But same for April, you're still going to have some of those closures in, especially those alpine luxury resorts. You might still have some of those closures, but in my opinion, I think May is really kind of a perfect month to hike because it's cool.
I would say if you come mid-May to sort of end of June, this is your really sweet spot. If you can do this for hiking, it's a good combination of everything. So moving on to June, this now is the summer. In terms of weather, you're going to have a much better weather, much more chance of having just blue sky. It might be even warm, maybe to 28, 30 degrees, maybe not too much still in June. This is your perfect time to hike. In May, you still, depending on the altitude of the hike, might see some snow. In June, this is likely gone for most of the hikes. The last thing is, if you are hoping to swim in lakes, the lakes are still relatively cool. Depends on your
Tolerance.
on your tolerance, but this is still something that is slightly cool also for the river swimming. But overall, this is really a nice month, less people, but was really the perfect conditions to enjoy Switzerland.
Okay, so now we're moving into the summer, which is exciting because I know this is when many of you would like to visit Switzerland, and for good reason. So we're gonna start with July. July, in my opinion, is really perfect summer weather in Switzerland. It's less oppressively hot than a lot of more southern places in Europe that might be a little bit more touristy or a little bit more popular for tourism, but I think it's a perfect summer. It's not particularly humid because you don't have the ocean. Switzerland is landlocked, and especially when you go up in the altitude, you really have nice weather. In summer, in July, it is quite crowded in Switzerland. I know everybody takes their holidays in July and August, and everybody likes to go hiking and swimming, and all of these things are possible in the summer. But as there are a lot of people that would like to do the same thing, it can be quite crowded, which is not a problem as long as you plan in advance. So make sure you get those hotel reservations. Restaurant reservations are particularly important in July and August, especially when you're in those more touristy locations, and especially on weekends. You're competing with a lot of people for reservations, especially in more popular restaurants. So do those in advance. Also make sure you book in advance the seats on those scenic trains because those will book up. So the Glacier Express and Bernina Express, make sure you do that because you can't just walk on and sit on those. Also really exciting in the summer is you have a lot of different events in Switzerland. So I'm gonna link a video here. This is for 2022, so the dates will shift because we're already planning for the 2023 season. So the dates won't be exact, but the events are annual. So year over year, you're gonna have the same type of events. So look into that because because there's lots of fun things going on in Switzerland in the summer.
1st of August is our national day, and just pointing this out if you don't want to watch, and there's a lot of festivities around this.
So that's a good segue right into August. August, I think, is probably the heaviest month in terms of events. So check out that video, there's lots going on. That being said, August and July I think are really similar in terms of weather patterns. One other thing to note, you may have some storms, have some kind of scattered thunderstorms that I think are common most places in the summer. The big difference in my opinion in July and August in Switzerland is that in August I think more of the Swiss people take their vacations. So it's a double-edged sword with that, because since more of the Swiss people will be on vacations, it means there'll be less of them in Switzerland in the city, so it may be a little bit less crowded. But some of the local restaurants, local shops may be closed in August because that is when those owners and workers will be taking their vacations. So the only thing I want to point out there, because it won't be any wide, expansive closures, is if there's something particular that you'd like to see, a restaurant you really know you'd like to eat in, check on their website because they may be closed for a few weeks in August because they want to go on holiday too.
So moving on to September.
The month we're in right now.
Yes, so for me, September is still summer. Most of September, this is a bit like June, a very nice month because you still have some warm temperatures. You can go around maybe with a long sleeves or t-shirt depending on the weather, but you tend to have much less people already as tourists. You have Swiss people that are back in cities, but when you go to mountains, this is still really nice because you can feel that there's less people around. So this is a perfect month also because in terms of the lake and river swimming, this had time to warm up, so it's actually going to be quite enjoyable to do this, as it is enjoyable in August and in July, of course, but this is also a little addition to September. In September, all the gondolas and the mountain trains are very much likely to be still open, and it's still running, usually the boats and stuff, as a summer schedule. So this is operating like the summer but with less people, which is really, really nice, and that's why also I'm looking forward to September, to going around a little bit more. I would recommend this in terms of price. I think it's also slightly better and you'll have more access to stuff because there's less demand. Then moving on to October. October is different. It's now you have, in terms of weather, this is likely going to be a bit more cloudy, some more rain. It's going to be cooler. You'll need a jacket in October, definitely. No snow yet, or very high in the mountains, but no snow in the cities. Also little or no snow in the ski resorts in October. This is still time to hike, and up to sort of November, still time to hike. A nice thing about October is that the colors are going to change. My Switzerland is creating actually a nice map with the fall foliage all around Switzerland, so you can see that it evolves actually differently depending on the geography. But this is an additional kind of thing that you have in October, to have really that change of the trees that are becoming red, yellow, orange. This is really nice in October.
One other thing to note about October is seasonally, for the operations, this is when the quote-unquote summer schedule will end sometime in mid-October for most of those things.
Yes.
So the Glacier Express will end in October for maintenance. A lot of those funiculars and gondolas may stop in October, like the toboggan in Lucerne will end sometime in October. So the beginning half of the month is usually what they stop operationally considering as the summer season, and then that back end of the month will start those closures.
Yes, so in terms of hotels also, you have much less choice. You'll have, of course, always choice in cities, but if you go in ski resorts, you'll have much less choice.
So that moves right into November. November, in my opinion, is a really tough month to travel to Switzerland. If I had to say, out of the whole year, there's a month that's a little bit difficult, and I don't want to discourage any of you if you have it planned, because there's still things you can do. November is a little bit challenging because November is when you'll have the widest closures. So most of the month in November, the Glacier Express will be closed that entire month. The funiculars and gondolas, toboggans, many of them will be closed the entire month of November. Those luxury ski resorts are closed because they're preparing to start their season in December. And the weather in November is also tough. So in
crappy.
November, it's hard. So the trees, maybe in the very beginning of the month, you might still have some changing colors, but mostly the trees will already be dead, but you won't have the snow yet, and it will be quite cold, and it will start raining. So it's also kind of tough for hiking.
It's a combination of a lot of things that push us to say that if you can avoid November, avoid it.
But it's not all negative for November. If you are a foodie in November, that is the game season in Switzerland.
Ooh, yes.
So if you want to eat venison or things like that, that happens in November and November,
October, I think.
October and November. And that is when the fondue pots and the raclette grills start coming out again. So there is food to be had in October and November in Switzerland. So though they may not be our favorite months, if you like food, not a bad time to visit because you won't be competing with anybody else for those reservations. But moving right into December, and I think this is my favorite month in Switzerland. December is amazing if you like Christmas markets. So Switzerland is really, I think, probably my favorite place I've ever been for Christmas markets in all of Europe. Every part of Switzerland almost has Christmas markets to some extent. They're really, beautiful. We have quite a few videos on them, but I'll link one here that Louis did, which is his top 5 favorites, if that can help you plan. So Switzerland is really full of holiday cheer. The fondue and raclette I just mentioned is full force in December, so is the glühwein. All of that is flowing in December, and it's really joyous, and the cities will also be decorated just so beautifully outside of the Christmas markets. For me, it's no big deal because I don't ski, but the skiing will start in December, but it might not be the best skiing. So you could speak to this better as a skier.
I think the first half of December you should forget about skiing because most ski resorts kind of open kind of for Christmas or the week before Christmas. Before the snow is accumulating, there's not too much, so in terms of quality it's not that great. In terms of the weather overall, this is a little bit like November. It's not that great. You'll have some clouds, but you have the holiday cheer that is bringing you sun in a different way. So if you want to see snow, I think if you go in ski resorts, you will see snow in December. So this is, I think, overall a very nice month. But I would say and that's to conclude kind of this video, Switzerland is really nice because you can travel here all year long and you'll always have some activities, some things to do. But overall, I think this is quite a nice place because you can really come here all year long.
So if you're coming to Switzerland, let us know what month you're traveling below. We'd love to know because we'll adapt the content based on when many of you are traveling. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to support us, you can consider buying us a virtual coffee at the link here. And as always, if there's any other videos or places in Switzerland you'd like us to make content from, let us know in the comments. We always read all of them. But that is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Hey guys, thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.